Hi, I am Sophia. Welcome to True Payback, where story hits different. Hit subscribe. Let's dive in.
You're the selfish one, Dad declared at Christmas. We raised you and you give nothing back. Mom added, ungrateful. I pulled out a folder. Here's $347,000 in wire transfers over 5 years. Your mortgage, utilities, car payments. The forensic accountant stepped forward. And here's $189,000 in credit cards fraudulently opened in her name. Mom's face went white. My name is Kendra Williams, and the first time I gave my parents money, I was 24 years old and thought I was finally becoming the daughter they deserved. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, in a neighborhood where everyone knew each other's business and appearances mattered more than truth. My parents, Gregory and Diane Williams, were fixtures at Ebenezer Baptist school board meetings, and every community event that required people to see them as pillars of respectability. Dad worked in pharmaceutical sales. Mom was an office manager at a dermatology practice. Combined income, around $110,000 annually. Comfortable but not wealthy. Except they needed everyone to believe they were wealthy. The house on Monument Avenue with the columns. The matching Mercedes sedans. Mom's designer handbags. Dad's golf club membership. My private school tuition at St. Catherine's, where I was one of 3 black students in my graduating class and felt the weight of representing my entire race every single day. You have to be twice as good to get half as far, Dad told me constantly. We're giving you opportunities we never had. Don't waste them. I didn't understand until much later that the opportunities were financed on credit cards and home equity loans, that the beautiful life they'd built was constructed entirely on debt, and that I was always meant to be their exit strategy. I was a good student because I had to be. Straight A's, National Honor Society debate team captain. I got into Howard University with a partial scholarship, and my parents made a big show of the acceptance at church. Our daughter going to the Mecca, Dad announced proudly, arm around my shoulders. What he didn't announce was that the scholarship only covered 60% of costs, and I'd need to take out $28,000 in loans for my first year alone. Don't worry about the money, Mom said when I hesitated over the loan documents. Education is an investment. You'll make it back tenfold. I believed her. I signed. At Howard, I majored in accounting. It wasn't glamorous, but it was practical, stable, respectable. The kind of career that would make my parents proud and maybe finally let me exhale. I joined Delta Sigma Theta. I interned at Deloitte the summer before senior year. I graduated magna cum laude with $94,000 in student debt and a job offer as a junior auditor at a regional firm in D.C. starting at $52,000. My parents threw me a graduation party. Invited half the church. Dad gave a speech about sacrifice and legacy and how their investment in me was paying dividends. I started the job 3 weeks later. My take-home after taxes and loan payments, $2,100 per month. Rent for a studio in Northeast D.C., $1,200. That left $900 for food, transportation, everything else. I was 22 and exhausted before I even started. The first request came 6 months in. Mom called on a Tuesday evening, her voice tight with stress. Kendra, honey, I need to ask you something and I need you not to judge us. My stomach clenched. What's wrong? Your father's commission check got delayed. Some issue with the corporate office restructuring territories. It'll get sorted out, but in the meantime our mortgage payment is due and we're about $1,800 short. Mom, I don't have. I know you're just starting out. I know it's a lot to ask. But if we miss this payment it goes on our credit, and you know how hard we've worked to maintain our standing in the community. There was the community, the appearance, the thing that always mattered more than reality. Can you ask someone from church for a short-term loan? I suggested weakly. Kendra. Her voice went cold. We are not begging from church people. We have dignity. I thought you understood that. The guilt was immediate and overwhelming. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. We raised you better than to suggest we humiliate ourselves publicly. I thought after everything we sacrificed to send you to that expensive school, you might want to help your family when we hit a rough patch. But if you'd rather we lose our home. No, I'll help. Let me transfer it. I sent $1,800. Left me with $340 for the next 2 weeks. I ate ramen and peanut butter. I walked to work instead of taking the metro. Mom called 3 weeks later. Sweetheart, that check finally came through. We'll get you that money back by the end of next month. They didn't. When I asked about it 6 weeks later, Dad sounded irritated. Kendra, we just paid $3,200 to fix the HVAC system. The house is falling apart. You want us to live in discomfort after we've given you everything? I stopped asking for repayment. The pattern established itself. Crisis, request, guilt, rescue, no repayment. Every 3 or 4 months like clockwork. Car repair. $1,200. Property taxes higher than expected. $2,400. Medical bills from Mom's dental work. $1,800. Dad's car insurance spike. $900. By my second year at the firm, I'd sent them roughly $18,000. I was promoted to senior auditor with a raise to $61,000, and somehow I had less money than before. I made one friend at work who I trusted enough to confide in. Jasmine Park, a tax specialist who'd grown up in a Korean immigrant family and understood complicated parent dynamics. Are they paying you back? She asked when I mentioned helping with their mortgage again. They're my parents, I said as if that explained everything. That's not an answer. They raised me, sacrificed for me. This is what family does. Jasmine studied me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Kendra, family helps each other. Family doesn't systematically drain each other dry while calling it love. I changed the subject. I wasn't ready to hear it. I met Marcus at a Howard alumni event in DC when I was 26. He was a systems analyst at Booz Allen, smart and kind and completely unimpressed by status performance. We bonded over being the first in our families to achieve certain professional milestones and feeling the weight of all the expectations that came with it. 6 months into dating, I introduced him to my parents over Sunday dinner. Did not go well. Mom took one look at Marcus. His off-the-rack suit, his Honda Accord, his state school engineering degree, and I could see her mentally calculating his net worth and finding it insufficient. Systems analyst, Dad repeated when Marcus mentioned his job. That's like IT support? More infrastructure architecture, Marcus explained patiently. I designed the frameworks that. Kendra's doing very well at her firm, Mom interrupted. She's on track to make manager within 2 years. We've always encouraged her to aim high. The message was clear, you're not high enough. After Marcus left, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. Sweetheart, he seems nice, but is he really? I mean, you're going places. You should be with someone who matches your trajectory. He's brilliant and kind and treats me like. Like what? Like you're worth dating despite having no trust fund? Kendra, you deserve someone who can provide the lifestyle you grew up with. The lifestyle they couldn't actually afford, she meant. The lifestyle I was actively subsidizing. I moved in with Marcus 8 months later. My parents didn't come to help me move. The requests for money didn't stop. If anything, they accelerated. Now there was judgment attached. I know you're playing house with that man, Mom said when she called asking for $2,200 for car repairs. But family is family. Blood is blood. Don't forget where you came from. Marcus noticed. Babe, you sent your parents money again. That's the 3rd time this month. They're having a hard time. They drive Mercedes. They belong to a golf club. How hard a time can they be having? I didn't have an answer. I made manager at 28. Salary jumped to $89,000. I was leading audits for mid-sized regional companies and I was good at it. I understood how money moved, how to read between the lines of financial statements, how to spot patterns that didn't add up. I was tracking million-dollar discrepancies in corporate accounts while somehow remaining blind to what was happening in my own life. The breaking point started with a rejected credit card. Marcus and I were at Target buying groceries. My card declined. I tried another one. Declined. I felt the heat of embarrassment creep up my neck as the cashier waited. I'll get it, Marcus said quietly, pulling out his card. In the parking lot, I called my credit card company. The balance on my primary card, $8,900. I thought it was around $2,000. There must be an error, I told the representative. Let me check your recent transactions, she said. Then she listed them. Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, a jewelry store in Richmond, a spa, restaurants I'd never been to, all in Richmond. None by me. Can you tell me the billing address on this account? I asked, my voice shaking. 4127 Monument Avenue, Richmond, Virginia. My parents' address. I pulled my credit report that night. Marcus sat next to me on the couch, his hand on my knee as I scrolled through the accounts. 5 credit cards I'd never opened. Total balances, $37,000. A personal loan from a credit union, $28,000. A store credit account at Ethan Allen Furniture, $12,000. All with my social security number. All with my parents' address. Kendra. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. This is identity theft. This is fraud. They're my parents, I whispered. There has to be an explanation. There is. They've been stealing from you for years. I called my mother the next morning, my prepared speech dissolving the second she answered. Mom, did you open credit cards in my name? Silence. Then, Kendra, you don't understand the pressure we've been under. Not a denial. Not an apology. An excuse. You committed fraud. You destroyed my credit. We raised you. We gave you everything. You think that private school education was free? You think we didn't sacrifice every single day to give you opportunities? This is how you repay us. With accusations. You stole from me. We borrowed against your future earning potential, which only exists because of us. Every dollar you make is because we invested in you first. I hung up. I was shaking so hard I dropped the phone. Marcus held me while I cried. Then he said, "We need to get you a lawyer. And a forensic accountant." The forensic accountant was a woman named Patricia Okonkwo, recommended by Jasmine. She was 50, sharp as a blade and utterly unfazed by family drama. "This is more common than you think," she said at our first meeting. "Parents who see their children's credit as an extension of their own. They convince themselves it's borrowing, not stealing." She requested 5 years of bank statements, credit reports, and any documentation of the payments I'd been making to my parents. "I have most of it," I said. "I'm an auditor. I keep records." Patricia smiled grimly. "Good. Because we're going to need them." The full analysis took 3 weeks. When Patricia presented her findings, I felt like I was in one of my own audit meetings, except the fraud was against me. Total documented payments from you to your parents over 5 years, $347,000. This includes direct transfers, payments made on their behalf, and several instances where you paid bills that were legally their responsibility. I stared at the number. $347,000. More than 3 years of my gross salary. The fraudulent accounts opened in your name total $189,000 in current balances. Based on transaction history, I estimate they've charged approximately $240,000 to these accounts over 4 years, paying minimums to keep them from defaulting until recently. How was I making $89,000 a year and sending them this much? I asked, my voice hollow. You weren't. You were going into debt yourself. You currently carry $67,000 in credit card balances of your own, plus your student loans. Kendra, you've been funding your parents' lifestyle by destroying your own financial future. The lawyer, Bernard Shaw, was equally direct. You have an exceptionally strong case for fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation. The question is what outcome you want. I want them to stop, I said. That's the easy part. The hard part is, do you want them held accountable? I agonized over the decision for 2 months. These were my parents, the people who raised me, who came to my school plays, who taught me to ride a bike. But they were also the people who stole $189,000 from me while calling me selfish. Marcus was patient. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. But Kendra, think about our future. We want to buy a house someday. Maybe have kids. How do we do that if your credit is destroyed and they're still draining you? Jasmine was less patient. They're betting you'll choose the appearance of family harmony over your own well-being. That's exactly what they've been doing all along. I decided to confront them. One more chance to make this right without lawyers and police reports. I chose Christmas. My parents were hosting their annual holiday party. 50 people, catered food, a bartender, everything designed to project success they didn't have. I arrived early before the guests. Mom was arranging flowers. Dad was setting up the bar. Kendra. Mom's smile was bright, brittle. I was worried you weren't coming. Where's Marcus? Working, I lied. He was actually in the car parked 2 blocks away waiting for my call. Well, you can help me with we need to talk. No. Before people arrive. Dad looked up from the whiskey bottles. Kendra, we have guests coming in 30 minutes. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time. I set my bag on the dining table. Because either we resolve this now privately or I resolve it publicly. Your choice. Mom's eyes narrowed. Resolve what? The $189,000 in fraudulent credit card accounts you opened in my name. The $347,000 I've sent you over 5 years. The systematic financial exploitation that's been happening since I graduated college. The room went silent except for the jazz playing softly from the speaker. Dad recovered first. Kendra, I don't know what you think you've discovered, but I hired a forensic accountant. I have documentation. Bank statements, credit reports, transaction histories. All of it. Mom's face shifted from confusion to calculation to anger. You hired someone to investigate your own parents? That's what we get for raising you. Suspicion and betrayal. You committed fraud. We borrowed against your potential. Dad's voice rose. You wouldn't have that potential without us. We invested everything in you, your education, your opportunities, your network. This is how family works. The successful ones help the ones who enabled their success. By stealing my identity? By accessing resources that wouldn't exist without our foundation. Mom stepped closer. Do you know how many sacrifices we made? How many times I wore the same dress to events so we could pay your tuition? How many vacations we didn't take so you could have music lessons and SAT prep and college application coaches? I didn't ask for any of that. You're the selfish one, Dad declared, his voice carrying through the house. We raised you and you give nothing back. Every dollar we spent on you was an investment in this family's future. Your future. And now that you have that future, you want to hoard it? Want to play victim because we needed help during hard times. Mom added, ungrateful. After everything. Ungrateful. Something in me crystallized. I pulled out the folder Patricia had prepared. Here's $347,000 in wire transfers over 5 years. Your mortgage. $2,800 a month for 60 months. That's $168,000. Utilities averaging $400 monthly. That's $24,000. Car payments totaling $78,000. Insurance, repairs, property taxes, HOA fees. Every single transfer documented with date, amount, and purpose. I spread the pages across their expensive dining table, the one I now knew I'd probably paid for. Dad's face went red. So what? So you helped your family. That's what you're supposed to. The doorbell rang. I walked to the door and opened it. Patricia Okonkwo stood there, professional and composed, carrying a leather briefcase. This is Patricia, I said. The forensic accountant I mentioned. Patricia stepped inside, nodding politely to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Williams. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We didn't agree to anything, Mom said. Kendra, this is insane. We have guests. Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a bound report. This is a comprehensive analysis of financial transactions involving your daughter over the past 5 years. In addition to the $347,000 in documented payments she made on your behalf, I've identified $189,000 in credit card balances across 7 accounts fraudulently opened using her social security number. She laid out the evidence methodically. Credit applications with forged signatures, transaction histories showing purchases made in Richmond while Kendra was documented in D.C., billing addresses that didn't match Kendra's residence. Mom's face went white. This meets the federal definition of identity theft, Patricia continued. The accounts were opened without Miss Williams's knowledge or consent, using her personal information illegally obtained. Several of these accounts are now in collections, damaging her credit score and ability to secure housing or loans. Dad sank into a chair. We were going to pay them back. We just needed time. You've had 5 years, I said quietly. You've had $347,000 from me directly. How much more time did you need? You don't understand the pressure, Mom whispered. The expectations. Everyone watching us, judging us. We couldn't let them see us struggle. We couldn't let them know we were human. I said. That you made financial mistakes? That the perfect image was a lie. It wasn't a lie. Dad's voice cracked. We built something. We gave you a foundation. You can't put a price on. You put a price on it, Patricia interjected. Roughly $536,000 by my calculation. That's the total cost to Miss Williams, direct payments plus fraudulent debt. The doorbell rang again. Guests arriving. Mom looked panicked. Kendra, please. Not tonight. We can discuss this later, work something out, but please don't ruin Christmas. I'm not ruining anything, I said. You did that years ago. I'm just deciding what happens next. I pulled out the settlement agreement Bernard had prepared. Here are your options. 1. You sign this agreement acknowledging the debt and entering a structured repayment plan. You'll also sign affidavits for each fraudulent account, allowing me to report them as identity theft and remove them from my credit. You'll attend financial counseling. And you'll have no contact with me for a minimum of 1 year while I decide if I want a relationship with you at all. And if we don't sign? Dad asked. Then Patricia and I leave this house, drive straight to the police station and file criminal charges for identity theft and fraud. Federal offenses. 3 to 7 years in prison conservatively. Mom started crying. Real tears this time, not performative ones. You'd send us to prison? Your own parents. You'd steal $500,000 from your own daughter? The question came out harder than I intended. While calling her selfish? The doorbell was ringing continuously now. Voices outside. Their guests arriving for the picture-perfect Christmas party. Dad looked at Mom. Something passed between them. Shame, fear, the crumbling of the facade they'd maintained for so long. We'll sign, he said quietly. They signed the agreement at the dining table while their guests waited outside. Patricia witnessed. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and sad and like I'd lost something I could never get back. Mom tried to hug me before I left. I stepped back. 1 year, I reminded her. No contact. You focus on fixing this. I focus on recovering from it. I walked out past confused guests asking where the hosts were. Let them wonder. Let the perfect image crack. Marcus was waiting in the car. I got in and he didn't ask questions, just drove. We went to Jasmine's apartment. She'd prepared for this, had wine and food and a guest room ready. She and Marcus let me cry for 3 hours straight, crying out years of guilt and confusion and the weight of believing I was selfish for wanting to keep my own money. The settlement required my parents to pay $2,500 monthly for 15 years. They made the first payment. Missed the second. Made the third and fourth. The pattern continued. Unreliable, resentful, but technically compliant. The affidavits took 8 months to process through credit bureaus. My credit score climbed from 542 to 698. Still damaged but healing. I got promoted to senior manager. Salary, $127,000. Marcus and I started actually saving money. We got engaged. We're planning a small wedding. Just our real friends, the people who showed up during the hard parts. My parents aren't invited. The 1 year no contact turned into 2 years, then 3. Sometimes I think about reaching out. Then I remember Mom's face when she called me selfish, and I remember that I'm protecting myself, not punishing them. Jasmine became godmother to my nephew, my chosen family showing up where my blood family couldn't. I started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit, teaching young professionals about credit protection and recognizing financial abuse. Every session at least one person comes up after and says, "My family does this to me." You're not alone, I tell them. And it's not your fault. And you can set boundaries. I mean it. I'm living proof. But recovery isn't linear. Some months I still feel the guilt when the payment reminder appears in my email. Still hear Mom's voice. After everything we sacrificed. Therapy helps. Dr. Washington, my therapist, helps me separate the real sacrifices my parents made, time, attention, care, from the narrative they constructed where I owed them everything forever. They did raise you, she says. And they did make sacrifices. And they also exploited you. Both things are true. You don't have to choose one to validate the other. Marcus proposed on a beach in North Carolina, somewhere far from Richmond and D.C. and all the weight of who I was supposed to be. Just us, just the moment, just the future we're building. I love you, he said. Not your potential or your earning capacity or what you can provide. Just you. I cried. He held me. We watched the sun set. The wedding is in 4 months. I sent my parents an announcement, not an invitation. They'll know it happened. They won't be there. Mom called my phone 3 times last week. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Kendra, please. Enough time has passed. We're family. We need to talk about your wedding. People are asking questions. People are asking questions. Not I miss you. Not I'm sorry. Just concern about appearances. I deleted the voicemail. Last month my parents' house went into foreclosure. Without my $2,800 monthly mortgage payments, they couldn't sustain it. They're moving to a 2-bedroom apartment in a less prestigious neighborhood. Dad's golf club membership lapsed. Mom had to sell her Mercedes. The community is talking. The perfect facade finally, completely shattered. Part of me feels guilty about that. The part that was raised to protect the image at all costs. But a larger part, the part that spent 5 years eating ramen while funding their country club dues, feels something else. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Just free. I bought my first home last month with Marcus. A modest townhouse in Silver Spring, Maryland. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, completely within our budget. Our budget. Built on our salaries. No hidden debt, no fraudulent accounts, no performance for an audience that doesn't actually care. Sours. The closing attorney asked if my parents would be contributing to the down payment, as many parents do. No, I said simply. They won't be. She nodded and moved on. Just another line item in the transaction. I wish it felt that simple. Because the truth is I still love them. Still miss the parents they were when I was 7 before I understood about money and image and the weight of their failures. But I can't go back to who I was. The daughter who believed she was selfish for wanting to survive. Patricia called last week. She's working on another case. A young man whose family opened business loans in his name. She wanted to know if I'd be willing to talk to him to share my story. People need to know they're not alone in this, she said. That family financial abuse is real and recovery is possible. I said yes. As I am recovering. Fully. Imperfectly. With setbacks and bad days and moments when I hear Mom's voice and doubt everything. But I'm recovering. The wedding venue is booked. The dress is ordered. Marcus's family is excited and supportive and keeps asking how they can help, and I'm learning what that feels like. Family without strings attached. Jasmine is my maid of honor. She gave a toast at our engagement party. To Kendra, who taught me that the hardest boundaries to set are the most important ones. I thought about my parents sitting in their apartment, angry about the settlement payments, angry about losing the house, angry that I won't pretend none of this happened for the sake of appearances. And I realized, I'm not the selfish one. I never was. The forensic accountant's report sits in a fire-safe box in my home office. I don't look at it often, but I know it's there. Evidence. Documentation. Proof that I'm not crazy, that it really happened, that the voice in my head saying you're ungrateful was never telling the truth. Recovery means carrying that knowledge forward. Building a life that honors reality instead of performance. It means Christmas at my house this year with people who love me for who I am, not what I can provide. It means teaching financial literacy to young professionals and watching their faces when they realize they're allowed to say no. It means planning a wedding without my parents and grieving that loss while also protecting my future. Both things are true. They'll always be true. And somehow, impossibly, I'm learning to live with that.